I really, really enjoyed introducing my circle of friends to Emi Martinez. And this is the glorious thing about the World Cup. It reaches way beyond football fans. So I would say about 50% of my friends and family now know three things about football. Messi is good, Ronaldo is good, and Emi Martinez is a cunt. And just filling them in on the details of is Ronaldo not hitting it? I'm going to eat you. Get the stretcher on. My hammy's gone. It's incredible. But one thing he left out there was the reverse shithousery as well with his own teammates. Like that's something that's been massively overlooked. Telling his teammates to relax, he'll save a few penalties, and they know he's right as well. And like you were just talking about there, France knew it as well. that was the big problem for them. And as much as I was shouting on about the love of psychology in football, the goalkeeping ability for Martinez during this tournament was ridiculous as well. Like the save from the second Dutch penalty was out of this world. He guessed down the middle and then saved it anyway.
Like the reactions and the agility to get that far over, unbelievable.
Yeah, and the fact that he guessed down the middle as well twice during that shootout was brilliant. Well, how many times have I called for that? Just stand up sometimes, because a lot of fucking penalties go down the middle. But you contrast what Martinez did for Muani's chance, how big he made himself, and crucially, how he retained the ability to react to the shot as well. So he's not just hoping the ball hits him. Or even a save from that Australian lad who signed for Saudi Arabia. Qual, is it? Anyway, you know the save I'm talking about. Yeah. Like by the time Qual gets turned, and he wasn't slow in turning either, but by the time he gets turned, Martinez is literally within eating distance. And you contrast those two saves with Lloris just patiently waiting for Di Maria to get on McAllister's slightly overhit pass, and then diving away from his goals and protecting them with only his fucking shins, which he keeps on the ground as well, throwing down the gauntlet to Di Maria. Can you lift the ball 8 inches off the ground? And he fucking couldn't either. Di Maria scored a goal in the World Cup final by scuffing one into the ground just because Hugo Lloris dived out of the fucking way.
Good point. Like this is, I wanted to ask this question, not really on the podcast, because I don't want to sound like a mug, and I didn't want to take away from an amazing goal. But like, we're here now, let's fucking do it. Di Maria didn't mean that. He didn't mean to lift it over the keeper. If Di Maria hit that ball where he wanted, it's a save. He tried to keep it low. He just thought, get over this ball, keep it on target. And if he did that, fucking Lloris would have saved it. He hit it into the ground and it went over, and people will say, well, everyone's told to keep it down. Yeah, they are told to keep it down, but if he kept it down there, it was saved. This time he got a bit of luck and he bounced over the keeper. He didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, and goalkeepers are told to keep yourself big as well. I mean, Lloris couldn't have made himself any smaller. I mean, literally diving past his near post, like protecting the goal with his shins. What is this lad at?
The Messi penalty as well. Like, everybody enjoyed it because it was cool from Messi and the way he rolled it in. This is the one in the shootout. If you look at the freeze frame, Lloris is waiting on Messi. Like, he's actually waiting this time, and he doesn't even get done. It's like he gets done in his head, and then he can't. He's sort of waiting to go left, and Messi. I don't want to say Messi puts it to Messi's left. He doesn't really. He sort of hits it down the middle, and Lloris can't react. He looks like an old man. Looks like me, trying to play football. You just start giving up. Like, these boys are it's just easier for them. They're faster. They can turn easier. Like, Lloris just like, Messi just rolled it. It's like, fucking react. Just like walk over to it, as you would say. We just talked about it in the last podcast. Walk over and pick up the ball. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I don't know what he was playing at.
Yeah, we don't have to stop at Messi's either. I mean, Messi's penalty wasn't good. Lloris does well, actually, to stay standing, and he actually wins the mind games of Messi by hopping to the left to force Messi to go to the other side. I mean, he's taking a risk because if Messi puts it in the corner, he can't get there. But with Messi's run-up and his standing start now, essentially, he can't put it in the corner. And it's so far from the post and so slow. And remember, Lloris is still standing up. I mean, and he's purportedly a goalkeeper as well. And it was his decision for Messi to put it to that side.
Yeah.
He knows where Messi's going to go now, and he can't make it back across. It's unbelievable.
It actually is, though. Well, Lloris has stumbled so other people can maybe walk in the future, but like it's a good strategy, I'd say, for these type of penalties, the like of Messi, the like of Jorginho, who you're waiting for the keeper to make their move and they're cool enough. And like, if they do want to hit that side net, they need to pull it. And if Lloris is standing up and trying to ward off that, but also gambling on the other side, and then he's making Messi, like you say, go to the other way. Messi can't get it that tight to the corner. The only way he could is if he's drilling it with the instep across his body, but he can't do that anymore because Lloris is sort of guessing there while still giving himself the out. So maybe a better keeper than Lloris will now take Lloris's strategy and use that going forward.
Yeah, the one thing we absolutely are certain of during this World Cup, I mean, I'm not sure Argentina are the best team. Sorry, I know Argentina aren't the best team in the world. But one thing we all can be definitely sure of, apart from the fact that Messi and Ronaldo were good at football and had amazing careers, and Emi Martinez is a cunt, Hugo Lloris is one of the worst goalkeepers that has ever played the fucking sport, and certainly at penalty shootouts as well. I mean, think about the second penalty. Dybala does a shit version of a Danny Ings penalty, and it still goes in. It goes in 2 inches off the ground, slightly off centre, to the side Lloris has moved to. Head down the whole way, hoping Lloris isn't still there when he last saw him. I mean, he was hoping Hugo Lloris had moved when all the evidence we have from this penalty shootout and the game is that Hugo Lloris can't move.
Yeah, actually, well, it was impressive that he got so far out of the way of that penalty. And like the Dybala one was obvious. There was 2 penalties where I also knew that Martinez was going to save Kingsley Coman's, but I knew Dybala was going to do that because I couldn't believe. I was like, I can't believe they're bringing him on. They had a penalty. He's going to miss. And the only way he would not miss is the keeper does something shit. And the 4th France penalty, so Martinez does deserve 1 minus in the minus column. Like, I thought it was obvious that because Martinez had won this penalty shootout, like he was controlling that box. And it was so obvious the next France player was thinking, fuck this. Like, I'm just hitting this down the middle. Like, we've just missed 2 in a row. The last person's hit it fucking wide. I'm just hitting this and hope that the gods are on my side this time. And what a perfect penalty shootout that would have been if Martinez just stood there, having saved one, having psyched another guy out to hit it off target, and then just stood up and read the other guy like a book and won the World Cup for Argentina as well.
Yeah, it would have been incredible, and it's what he tried to do in the Netherlands game as well. He saved the 2 penalties, and then he didn't, and then he stood up. He stood up for the next one as well, thinking it was going to go down the middle. Look, he had a good World Cup, I suppose, in the round, so we can't really have too much of a go with him. Lloris, we can continue to have a go with him, though. I mean, Paredes' penalty is at least 1.5 yards from the post. I mean, it's almost exactly between Lloris and the post, which based on Dybala's penalty, you'd have to say maybe Paredes was being needlessly cautious, bothering it to put it 2 yards to Lloris's right. But Lloris drops on it, and his fucking little lettuce hand can't keep it out. It's the fucking World Cup final. Tighten up your wrist. And then fucking Hugo Lloris, the fucking genius, son of a lawyer and Monte Carlo banker, born with what actually must have been a mercury spoon in his mouth, watches 18th place Sevilla's second choice right back come up to take a penalty to win the World Cup. And what does Lloris do? He dives to his fucking left. The son of a Monte Carlo banker gambles that a non-consequential footballer standing over the most consequential kick in the sport is going to open up his body and whip it across into the side netting.
I'm laughing because it's funny, and I'm also laughing because I wanted once again try to take us back to Emi Martinez, but
Colin, I am in the essentially talking about Emi Martinez here by contrasting him.
yeah. There's just one thing I wanted to talk about, and you've mentioned this save against Australia, 97th minute. That would have tied the game. You still fancy that would have went to penalties and Argentina would have won anyway. But yeah, they're one in the final. It's sitting up on the half volley for It's 13 seconds past the 3rd minute of 3 minutes added on, the 120th minute. So it's the 124th minute now at this stage. And I saw somebody, and they were giving him credit, but I actually think they were doing him a disservice. They compared it to Peter Schmeichel, make yourself as big as possible. They were almost comparing it to the Ming Spider, but it wasn't that. It was Emi Martinez, a game playing mind games, saying, he covered one side. His angles were brilliant. He covered one side so that shot couldn't be pulled across. And said, go on, there you go, there's the gap. And then he knew once he saw it winding up, like that's where it's going, and he fucking flung himself then in the middle of it. He directed where he wanted that ball to go, and then he had the skill and the agility to save it. Then it was honestly, and then you bring the context into it as well. It's not hyperbole. It's one of the greatest saves you'll ever see.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's an incredible save, and the context in it does absolutely elevate it to that level. And he's Aston Villa's cunt, and it's absolutely delightful that he's there.
Well, we can say that he is better than Hugo Lloris, though, which makes it strange because I'm seeing a lot of links now. Emi Martinez linked with Tottenham Hotspur. People were telling me that Hugo Lloris was actually a good keeper. Spurs fans tell me that. France tells me that all the time. 124 caps, 100, like the amount of times he's captain as well. Over 80% of them, I think. I just can't understand why they'd be looking for another keeper. maybe it's because Hugo Lloris isn't that good. Like I heard Philippe Auclair, who was having such a good tournament, he was showing up, a great journalist showing up on all these different podcasts, and then got to the big time then, and I suppose his patriotism was starting to let him down a little bit. Then maybe the way people would listen to us from an Aston Villa point of view, but yeah, he just sort of went all in on France. He said that Argentina don't really have a chance against them. And he got a bit wound up after the semi-final, just out of nowhere, really. He just started going off on a tangent about Hugo Lloris not getting respect. And once again, he has to prove himself. I don't understand how many times this boy has to prove himself, but he does it every time. And I was thinking, Hugo Lloris? Are we thinking about the same person? There's a reason he has to prove himself, because whilst you might think he proves himself, he turns back around and fucks it up again the next time. Like, it's not. You might you might no longer be suspended from driving, but if you go out and drink and drive and speed and do all sorts of fucking shit, you're going to get the license taken back off you again. And that's Hugo Lloris. He's going back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. He might make a good save every once and again, and then, like the World Cup final, he might do absolutely fucking nothing. Like nothing. But yeah, I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing that Hugo Lloris did during the World Cup final was be really polite to a guy who's had a great career and let Angel Di Maria get on to Alexis McAllister slightly overhead through ball. I mean, that was a great goal. But Lloris is just watching 35-year-old Angel Di Maria fucking dwaddle in from the left wing. Go out and get the fucking ball. And if you don't get there, you're going to be right on his toes anyway. What are you doing?
Yeah, we'll probably see a lot of links now because of his agent, I suppose, as well. And he's going to try and get Emi Martinez more money. But we'll see a lot of links with him now over the next whatever amount of months. I can safely say that it won't be the Spurs because they're set. They've already got a world-class keeper.